All right, so welcome everyone. We're going to get started on this LinkedIn learning. And what we're going to talk about today is really how to get more attraction to your actual posts themselves. So there are a few things that we can discuss. And the first one I'm going to discuss is the different types of posts that you can create on LinkedIn. Most people that will post something will post a text, and that's not a bad thing by any stretch. These are powerful tools that can help you communicate your ideas directly and effectively. Even myself, even though I try to diversify the way I post stuff, I still think probably 80 or 90% are text. I do want to expand from that, but for whatever reason, sometimes it's just the timing. I will typically text anyways. Some other options are carousels. And if you haven't used a carousel in the past, there's several ways you can create. You can create it in PowerPoint and upload it, or in Canva and those types of things. But if you use a carousel, what that allows you to do is to share multiple images. So especially if you're trying to tell like a story, and everyone knows that people will relate more to visuals than they will text. So this is kind of neat. And also, when you post a carousel, your audience also has the option of downloading it. So if you are creating a carousel and you're adding information, I highly recommend that the last page of that carousel is some sort of call to action, or at the very least, it should have your contact information. Because what's going to happen is if they download it because they perceive your carousel as valuable, they may forward it to somebody else, and they may forward it to somebody else. And you want to make sure that if somebody else finds that valuable, they know how to reach you, right?
I've
Especially
never
if,
heard the term carousel before. Sorry for interrupting.
yeah, no, it's not, you're not interrupting. This is the whole point of this, right? Sorry, so you're not sure what a carousel is?
Correct.
Okay. So effectively, I think if I describe it, you'll kind of get a better understanding. It's a post that it's an image, but the image itself may actually have some words, which is what you
Okay.
want. But you have that little arrow on the side. When you click it, it goes to the next image. And then you click it, it goes to the next image. So you could have
So
5,
it's like a
10, 50.
PowerPoint presentation
It's exactly like a
almost.
PowerPoint. It's exactly like a PowerPoint presentation. But
Okay.
when you set it up that way, you have the ability to download it, and you can keep that information. So make sure that you get credit for it. So somewhere in that carousel, you should have your contact information so that people can look you up, if, or a link, they can reach you somehow. Because if you're creating content which is valuable, you want to make sure you get credit for it.
Okay.
And the third one, which I've struggled with for no other reason other than lack of knowledge, but I did post some videos of late, but videos are highly effective for multiple reasons. One, it can really bring out your personality. So when you're talking on video, your humor or the way you speak or whatever it is will come out, and that's very important. Now, from what I understand, even though my videos tend to outperform my text when it comes to impressions on LinkedIn, what I've heard generally is not to worry too much about the impressions. And the theory behind this is, if you have a text that gets you 1,000 impressions and you have a video that gets you 900 impressions, you can make the argument that the text was more effective. But the reality is that's not true, because if 900 people, especially if they're part of your niche, looked at your video, they are far more likely to interact and far more likely to reach out to you because of the video versus a text. So my recommendation for this is you definitely want to include video as part of your arsenal when it comes to reaching your ideal clients, but not to worry too much about the impression count on the actual video. The second one I'm going to mention is telling personal stories or anecdotes within your posts. I noticed Andy's reached out to us today as well. Andy's really good at telling stories. I often tell people on LinkedIn, facts tell and stories sell. If all you're doing is posting facts, you're not necessarily going to connect with people. But if you take those facts and tie it into a story, people are far more likely to pay attention. They're far more likely to resonate with that, and they're far more likely to remember it. So sharing personal experiences, challenges, victories, not only humanizes your brand, but also makes your content a lot more relatable and inspiring. Andy, do you have anything to add on that one?
And not boring.
And not boring. Okay. So this is one which is, it sounds simple, but I noticed it made the biggest impact when it came to my LinkedIn posts and getting it read. Most people, even today, when they post something on LinkedIn, they just write it out as if they're writing an essay. So I click on your post and it opens up and I just see this wall of text. I'm going to tell you, in today's world of social media, when everyone has the attention span of a goldfish, no one's going to read that. You could have the most compelling, the most amazing content ever. The reality is, if I open it and see this wall of text, there's a very good chance I'm not even going to bother reading it. So how do you get around that is use lots of line breaks, spaces, arrows to make your point. If you're not quite sure what I mean by this, if you go onto my LinkedIn page, all my posts are set up that way. So when somebody opens up my LinkedIn posts, there's a lot of, you see the words for sure, but you also see a lot of space. So I can immediately recognize that this is going to be like an easy read, and I could probably read it in like 30 to 45 seconds. Make
When
sense?
you're creating little arrows or putting a little emojis in, I don't think you can do that straight from LinkedIn. You have to do it in someplace else and then just copy and paste it over.
Oh,
That's
the
a
arrow.
yes. That's a yes and no answer, Rick. You can put emojis in there, but Ermos has a way of doing it where it can transfer outside fonts and things into the post. Do I have that right, Ermos, right?
You're right. And it's not that complicated. You can just find emojis or arrows that don't exist on LinkedIn and just copy and paste.
And paste.
And Rick, if you're not sure where to even look, just copy my stuff. Go into my LinkedIn page, find a post, and if you like the arrows, just copy and paste into yours, and now you have it.
Yeah.
Now you have it in on one of your posts, and then
Yeah.
every time
I did that in the about section. Whatever.
Right.
I copied what you had in there, and then I just did my thing with it.
Yeah, perfect. Listen, if there are some people that get all up in arms if people copy their stuff, guys, I am all for it. If you find something on my LinkedIn page that you think can benefit you or help you in any way, just steal it. I don't care. I'm here to share and help other advisors. So if it's the actual post itself, or it's just the way it's set up, or an arrow or an emoji, just use it. Don't even worry about it. So Rick, if you're taking my stuff and you're copying it and making it your own, good on you. You know,
Yeah,
more people
well,
should do that.
when I did set up the LinkedIn page after our last chat, I mean, I basically just copied the format. I just used my own words.
Perfect. Yeah, that's
Even
exactly.
not even on the banner.
Yeah. Yeah, I noticed that. Your banner's pretty much mine, except for the different words. And I'm okay
Different
with
words.
that. It's all good.
And I changed the colors, but yeah.
Yeah. All good. All
Yeah.
right.
No, I decided not to worry about compliance, even though I'm on tape now, but I decided it's better to ask for forgiveness than permission.
I've heard that. That's
Yeah.
yeah. Some people might feel differently about that when it comes to compliance, but that's okay. This is not
Yeah.
like you're not
Yeah, but
promising.
I'm not offside on anything. That's the thing. It's like, give me a break. If I'm
Exactly.
offside, I'm saying I can generate 10% guaranteed, then I'm offside.
Exactly. That's what that was exactly what I was going to say. If you start promising like huge rates of return, then we're in trouble. But you know,
Yeah.
okay. So the next one is a call to action. So this is another mistake that I see advisors do when they're on LinkedIn. They'll post something, it's good. And again, if I'm your ideal client, so in your case, Rick, for instance, I know that you're going after the retirees, right?
Pre-retirees.
Sorry, that's right, pre-retirees.
Pre-retirees.
Then, I might look at that post and I might like what I read. I might be interested in it, but there's no real connection. Oh, I should probably reach out to Rick, right? it seems fairly obvious that if someone's interested, they'll reach out. But don't forget, you are one of, I don't know how many hundreds of millions of people on LinkedIn or social media. It may not click in right away. So you have to make it easy for them. So always incorporate some sort of strong call to action at the end of your post. So every single piece that you publish should motivate your particular audience to take some sort of action. So it could be something as simple as visiting your website or downloading an ebook. So I mentioned before the carousel,
Yeah.
Rick. So if you post some really good information for pre-retirees and you put it in a carousel, encourage them, right? Download this carousel and keep it as a reference source, right? Always include a call to action at the end of your post, so that way your prospects or potential clients know what to do next. Make sense?
Yeah.
All right. This is one that it just kind of fell on, and it's basically finding a good time to post. So I've always been posting around 7 o'clock in the morning, my time. And I don't know if that is, I guess, because financial advisors are getting up at that time and they're just kind of scrolling through. I just find that I usually get a lot more traction around that time. And I've had occasions where I just couldn't get my post out on time, and I would post it at 8:30 or 9. And then for whatever reason, I just would not get the same traction on that post. And my thinking is, I think a lot of financial advisors, they get up in the morning and they're kind of checking emails or they're checking LinkedIn just to see what's out there, right? And that's the reason why I get an uptick around 7 a.m. And by 8:30, 9 o'clock, they're probably on to doing actual work. And that's part of the reason why they're not checking out my content on LinkedIn. That's not to say other times don't work, but for me, I have noticed that my sweet spot is 7 a.m. in the morning. Now, depending on your niche or your ideal client profile, your time could be different. So my recommendation would be to experiment, have some fun, post sometimes at 7, at 8, and 9, and just track your impressions and your engagements just to see what works better, because every niche is a little bit different. Obviously, if somebody's retired, it's not likely to be up at 7 a.m., right? So that might be a little bit later time in the day. But again, everyone's a little bit different. Engaging conversations is another big one. So if you really want to trigger the LinkedIn algorithm, the single best way that you can get more impressions and more engagement is to get people to comment on your post. At this point in time, that is the greatest benefactor to driving the algorithm or stimulating the algorithm and getting you more impressions right now. Now, the reason I say right now is because LinkedIn is famous or infamous for really changing their algorithm all the time. The cynic in me tells me that the reason why they change their algorithm all the time is to keep people confused, so that they just kind of give up and say, okay, screw it, I'm just going to pay for ads. That's my theory anyways. I can't imagine why they have to keep changing the algorithm every 2 or 3 months. And sometimes your posts are skyrocketing and sometimes similar posts are doing like nothing and you can't figure it out. Well, there's nothing to figure out. LinkedIn changed their algorithm again.
So how would you get people to comment on it? Just ask them to comment, or
Yeah,
That's
ask
one way.
thought-provoking questions, right? Share unique perspectives. Don't be afraid to be a little bit controversial, right? You don't want to be over the top, but there are some things that are slightly controversial. You know what, Rick? I think your niche market, you can almost make an argument, or what the way you help your clients, it's not controversial, but it's not mainstream. Would you agree?
yes, that's the whole point. Is
Exactly.
I focus on generating retirement income and teaching them about sequence of returns, and you're on the default path of 4% withdrawal rate. So you can have $1 million, you can have the biggest genius guru out there, okay, to generate your money when you're accumulating assets. But the day you retire, due to the sequence of returns, you're forced to take a 4% withdrawal rate. So you just dramatically decreased your lifestyle. So how do you get away from that 4%?
So a lot of advisors will still abide by that, right? The rule of thumb
Yeah.
is a 4% withdrawal rate. So if you go out there and say 4% withdrawal rate is a hoax, right? Something like that, like some sort of
Yeah.
hook, the 4% withdrawal rate will guarantee failure. Like just say something like that as the initial line, and that will pretty much guarantee you advisors will weigh in, right? Oh no, 4% is the way to go. I've seen statistics, I've read this study, and then you
Yeah.
can argue the other side, right? Or debate the other side, and you got yourself a great conversation going, right?
Yeah.
Question for you, Amos.
About that.
Oh,
Sorry,
go ahead. No, go ahead, Eric. Sorry, Rick.
No, the thing is, I've got a way to get off the 4%. Because the 4% is just basically the result of the sequence of return risk.
Right.
Because even going 30, 35 years out, you still run a 20% chance of running out of money when you're withdrawing 4%. But the whole point of it is you want to be able to generate a lifestyle to go do it. So I've got ways to take that withdrawal rate from 4% to 6 to 7%.
Okay, but that's what you should be saying, right?
But that's so I'm slowly posting. So I took your story on sequence of returns. I posted it yesterday. Now I made an error because I didn't do a proper hook at the beginning, which is fine because I rushed it through. So I didn't do a proper initial hook. But I'm just going to follow up with that to go through. And that's even on my Planswell phone calls is, for people who have advisors, that's what I'm talking about. And I'm
Yep.
asking, how did they do the math? Are you aware of this? Because it's not going to work.
Sorry, Rick. So let's talk about the hook, because
Yeah.
that's another thing that most people don't understand as well. When you're scrolling through people's feeds, the only thing you see is the first one or two sentences. You don't see the entire post. The only way you can see the entire post is by clicking see more.
See more.
So as I mentioned previous, you could have the greatest post in the history of mankind. It is earth-shattering. It is people would be in tears. That's how motivated and inspired they were. It won't matter if the first two sentences do not pique their interest enough to actually hit see more. So that hook has to be something which is impactful. It gets them curious. It makes them want to open that post. Otherwise, you've just wasted your time. So that is
no,
very important.
I totally realized after I did it, it was too like a textbook type thing.
Yeah.
So that just the lack of, I was just trying to get it out.
Got it.
I may repost it with a different title, the exact same thing.
Why not?
Absolutely.
Go for it.
And see what happens.
So,
Okay.
Amos, I wanted to talk about the commenting thing, and this is related to that what you're just talking about. Are you aware of whether or not LinkedIn looks at or considers the length of the comment? Like, if somebody just says yes, is that carry the same weight in the algorithm as somebody saying, yeah, I think this is really good at Amos. I believe that blah, 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 blah.
Yeah, that's a great question, Andy. And so the longer the comment, the better it is. So I don't know if there is a sweet spot. So I can't comment that 10 sentences are always going to be better than 8, right? And 8's going to be better than 6. But I can tell you for sure 100% that those people that write great post, Andy, or this is good, or 100%, or just a little smiley face, that does not drive the algorithm. It has to be something a little bit more substantial. So when it comes to comments, and here's something that again, a lot of people don't know. It doesn't matter who posts the comment. A comment will drive the algorithm. It'll expand the algorithm. And I'll give you an example. Let's say I post something and 3 people comment on it, right? You get 3 points, we'll call it. What people don't understand is if you comment on their comment or reply to their comment, that also drives the algorithm. So my recommendation is for every single comment in your post, you respond to it. Because 3 becomes 6, 5 becomes 10, 10 becomes 20. And if you look at some of the top influencers, I don't know, personally, I don't even know how they do it, but I know some influencers that they'll get 100 comments and they'll respond 100 times. And then it looks like 200 comments and 250 engagements and who knows what their impressions are. It's got to be into the tens of thousands, right?
They pay somebody
Okay.
on Fiverr.com to just go and I'll bet they just have
Okay,
somebody
so
like you can find jobs online that you comment and they pay you to comment on their website because of that reason. It drives the algorithm,
okay, so
right?
when you please explain something to me here.
Sure.
Let's say I've got 500 connections, okay, and I'm trying to drive comments. What, when you say enhances the algorithm, improves the algorithm, is it sending that message to beyond the 500 people that are in my little group? Like, I don't understand how that's actually progressing outwards.
Okay, that's a great question, Rick. So, okay, so you have 500 connections. You post something, and let's just, I don't know what the percentages are, but let's just say you post something and the algorithm will push it 10% of your people. So 10% of 500, 50 of your people or your connections will at least have that in their feed. Now, if you provide no real hook and there's no real interest, nobody will click on it, nobody will engage, it stops dead, right? So the algorithm says, Rick posted something, we've tested it out, it's garbage, lack of a better term, we're not going to push this out. But you created a good hook, and of the 50 people, let's say 10 hit see more, the algorithm will recognize that, okay, so 20% of the people are opening it. Oh, look, you got a couple of likes. Oh, look, you got a couple of comments. So now the algorithm is going to do this now. So instead of 50, now maybe 100 or 125 of your connections will actually see it. And then you get more connection, or you get more engagement, you get more comments, you get more likes. It opens up even more and more and more and more. So those comments, yours included, will expand your algorithm in that way. The first people that will see your posts are your existing connections. But here's the beauty of it. Even if you and I are not connected, but Andy commented on, so you and Andy are connected, but you're not connected to me. You post something that Andy likes, Andy comments on your post, I will see it now because I'm connected to Andy. So I may actually engage on your post, even though you and I are not connected. And then once I comment, guess what? Now some of my connections see your post. See how that works?
Yeah, okay. So it just
So,
goes from my 500 connections and all their connections goes beyond
right.
from
And
their
that's
connections.
how you grow, because now it's no longer just about your 500 connections. It's about mine as well, and Andy's.
Yeah,
So
okay.
that only happens if there's engagement. If I hit like or if I comment, that's the only way that you can grow outside of your 500 unless you're trying to connect with other people. So that's why you have to really encourage comments. So your call to action could be, let me know your thoughts in the comments below, something like that.
I think it kind of ties into like a crowd draws a crowd, right? Like,
Yeah, no, I just wanted to know how it actually expanded beyond my original 500.
Yeah.
but I'm wondering, Ermos, if in Rick's case, if he's writing, a call to action to encourage a comment, if
No.
saying something that like, would you agree? Right? Yes or no. That if now 20 people say yes or no, and then Rick comments back, well, why do you say no? That's interesting. Is that going to further the cause? It sounds like it will.
It will.
Even if it's a one-word comment, if Rick goes and replies to it, that's going to validate that comment now.
Yeah. I mean, one word comments can't hurt you. They may not necessarily help you, but they can't hurt you, right? So yeah, any comment is good. And to what Andy was saying is, if you take what they say and you expand on it and maybe ask them a follow-up question, I mean, that all counts, and that will expand your reach as well.
And I think people are more apt to reply if they don't have to think about a long, intelligent, witty thing to reply to, or reply with, rather, right? And everybody, that saying, right? Every opinions are like assholes. Everyone has one, right? And so when you have a platform, even if it's a yes or no, the fact that you get to say yes or no and give your weigh in on it, it's a little bit more compelling when all you've asked was, just let me know, yes or no, do you agree with this? Or what's your number one stressor about retirement? Comment below. Right? That, yeah, I mean, assuming that's related to what your post is about, right? It's kind of the same way of predisposing, when I talk to leads, and this is related, I'm not going off on a tangent. When somebody's not giving me any feedback, I kind of say, well, yeah, it sounds like you're not really sure why you did the Planswell questionnaire, for example. Most of the people I talk to, I'm finding they care about outliving their savings. They're worried about it, or inflation, or market volatility, but when they go to retire, or protecting their families. But overall, they're just concerned something may be overlooked. Do any of those things, which one of those things do you worry about? Right? Now I'm putting that out where somebody doesn't have to think about an answer. They can say, oh, all of them, or A and B. Right? That now it's much easier to weigh in on what your ask for feedback was, because you've basically given them a choice and just asking them to say A, B, C, D, or all of the above. Am I on track there, Ermos?
Absolutely. So last tip, because we've reached time, and because we're on to comments. Another thing as well, like very few people or nobody likes to be the first person to comment. So it doesn't hurt you. It actually helps you to actually post the first comment, right? Like post the first comment or even first two comments to get people going, because a lot of people will go into something. It's like, oh, I really want to make a comment. And then they see that there's no comments. It's like, I'm not going to bother. But if somebody already sees some comments in the comment section, they're far more likely to start commenting. So that will be the last tip for today. So after you post something, make sure there's a hook, make it engaging, and it's okay to actually put in the first couple of comments.
Yeah, and it gives the other person the idea of, well, what are other people saying, so I don't look like an idiot.
Yeah, true. Or they may even respond to your comment. So that's happened too, where I post the first comment and then somebody won't necessarily comment on the post, but they'll comment on my comment. Either way, it all drives the algorithm, and that's what we want. All right, everyone. Well, thank you so much. Thanks for coming today, guys. And until next week, keep it going, guys, and do great. And feel free to post questions in the chat, and we'll be tracking it and seeing if we can help you out.
Thanks very much. Take care.
My pleasure.